The Rough Drafts podcast is sponsored by Unicorn.com, the world's premier esports betting site. Bet on your favorite games like CSGO, Dota 2, and League of Legends, and earn Unicoins through successful bets, or use Unicorn's exclusive Connect program, where you can earn Unicoins just by playing some of your favorite games. Use your earnings to enter Unicorn's raffles for exciting prizes like Logitech peripherals or CSGO skins. So join Chase and Walter and prove who really is the esports gambling expert. Unicorn.com. Log on today.
Hello, Internet. This is Chase, RedShirtKing, Wassenar, and welcome to week one of our North American LCS Guess the Lines podcast series. We're here. We have real games to talk about. It's incredibly exciting for those of us who have been looking over all these teams. We obviously poured over all 10 North American LCS teams in our preview series, which you should totally go watch. We even did predictions. We did it for Europe as well. We did our European Guess the Lines episode yesterday, if you haven't caught on to that. So much content, but now we finally get to talk about games. And of course, when I say we, I'm referring to my good friend and co-host Walter Ceades Fedczuk. Walter, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm not paying attention to the scoreboard above my head that says that you won Europe. It's a new day. It's North America. Brand new day. We know I start out slow, so I'm glad North America, more games, more chances for me to win. So I'm digging it. This is my turf now. You're the Roccat fanboy. I'm the TSM fanboy. Like, bring it on now. You're in my turf.
Yeah, well, if you perform as well as TSM and I perform the way I think Roccat will, I think this could be a very long series of episodes for us. But the good news is we get to find out. I am up 1-0. Thank you for bringing it up. It was a very close European battle, but we're now going to compete over our North American gambling expertise. And if you've never listened to this show before, you might be wondering, Chase, what the heck are you on about? Well, when we talk about our, weekly game-by-game previews, we like to put them in the framework of the gambling lines, brought to us by, of course, Unicorn.com, our presenting sponsors, and a company that we have loved working with and love using, for the record. We love Unicorn. We love putting our gambling knowledge to the test, and that's what we basically do on this show. We're going to go over all of the games very quickly, some of which we will spend more time on than others, depending on what the games of the week, in our opinion, are going to be. And we are going to guess the gambling lines. We're going to see which one of us is closer to the right answer, and we're going to give points according to whoever is correct more often than not. There will be that competition between Walter and I, and then we'll also give you our picks for where you can find value in your daily esports gambling life. After all, we are esports gambling experts. It says so on our Twitter profiles, and so therefore must be true. Now, how do these lines work, you might be asking? Very quickly, we use the plus-minus system. I find that a lot easier to explain to people rather than the decimal system, which is listed on Unicorn and involves you doing some maths and multiplication and things. It's very simple when you use plus or minus. If it's a minus odd, that means that team is favored to do whatever it is you're betting on. The way minus works is you have to bet that much money to win $100 back from the casino. So a minus 130 bet would mean that if you bet $130, you'd win $100 back. Now, if it's plus 130, that means that it's an underdog that you're betting on, which means you make more money back from the casino. So a $100 bet on a plus 130 wager would win $130. It would be $230 total in either, with either one of those two bets, but you get at them two different ways. Does that make sense, Walter? Do you think that brings the people in?
Positive, you make that money plus your initial investment, if it's 100, minus you have to pay that much to gain $100. I think it's pretty much easy.
Exactly.
Easy.
So just keep that in mind. It doesn't have to be dollars, of course. It could be whatever your regional currency is.
We use Unicoins.
Yes, we use Unicoins because we love the way Unicorn does it. We love all the prizes and things that they do offer. You can get headsets like the ones we're wearing. They work out great. But we're going to talk, before we get into the daily lines, which are going to be the majority of this podcast, we got to talk about some futures really quickly, Walter. Because futures are those special kind of bets that we only really get to do before the season starts.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're predictions on how the whole year is going to work. And we will take them and kind of say, well, this is what we think's going to happen, and let's see if we feel better or worse about that bet as we watch the season going forward. One such bet, for instance, would be the outright winner of the North American LCS. So, Walter, who do you think is the favorite to win North America right now?
I'm going to say TSM.
You are correct. What do you think the line is?
Plus 200.
Plus 300.
Ooh.
This is where we get our big difference from Europe. If you listen to yesterday's episode, they felt there were some very clear tiers in place. I'm just going to read the 6 most likely options that they have. Okay. Plus 300 for Team Solo Mid.
Okay.
Plus 450 for CLG or Cloud9. Plus 600 for Dignitas or Immortals. Plus 650 for Team Liquid. Phoenix 1 is when you start getting into upsets, which would be plus 1,200. Echo Fox, Envious, FlyQuest, sorry, you guys are at plus 3,300. So basically, we've got 6 teams all very close to each other as far as gambling terms are concerned, and 4 teams that are just off in their own little adventure. So what does that tell you, Walter, about where the average viewer / gambler is kind of coming down on this split, and where you find value in it? Is it fair that they're all this close?
I would say so. I'd say the top 6 teams are all very close to each other, and honestly, I think Phoenix 1 deserves to be up in that conversation too. They just have to prove it. That's kind of what it comes down to, is they have to prove it. I think the Cloud9 one is, as much as I've been ragging on Cloud9 this entire offseason, like, that's like really, really nice odds for ones that, let's put it this way, the top 3 teams there's been only one time that the final has not been 2 of those 3 teams. It was the very first LCS split. TSM won it, and it was against GGU or Coast. So, like, the fact that TSM is still only plus 200, that's actually pretty good. But then the other 2 teams that still exist in the LCS and are the only other ones to make it to a grand final at plus 400, like, those are some pretty solid odds. Like, I would probably take Cloud9 over CLG at that point. But
yeah, plus 450 for Cloud9 is pretty incredible. Yeah. That was my prediction at the beginning of the season, if you watched our predictions episode. So I love that odds. I mean, look, plus 300 to be an outright winner is by far the most favorable odds that we've seen of any of the regional leagues. You can look at the LCK, LMS, LPL. They're all on unicorn.com. You can check them out for yourselves. We don't cover those regions as in depth because this is a Western-centric podcast, but believe me when I say that no region is more up in the air, according to gamblers and your day-to-day fans, than North America. And this is even more true when you talk about getting into the playoffs. Here's a question for you, Walter. I'm going to phrase this a little differently than I usually do.
Okay.
How many teams do you think have minus odds to make the playoffs? So how many teams do you think are
6
favored? 7.
Okay, so they included Phoenix 1 in there.
Phoenix 1 is a minus 125 to get in. What do you think is the least likely team to make the playoffs, according to Unicorn? And what are the odds?
Least likely to make the playoffs.
Least likely. So who's the worst team according to Unicorn, and how unlikely are they to make the playoffs according to Unicorn here?
I'm going to say this to piss some people off, but also because they weren't in the LCS last split. FlyQuest.
That is fair. Technically, it's all 3 of the teams. Envious, Echo Fox, and FlyQuest are all tied as the last place North American team.
Okay.
At plus 250 to make the playoffs. There's no value. How did this happen, Walter? How is there no value on any of these teams?
Because 16,
because
over half the teams make it into the playoffs, so I mean, it's not going to be that crazy. North America is going to be much closer than Europe is. As poor as I think that Echo Fox and Envious are, I don't think they're Origin levels of crappiness. Like, they're still going to be competitive. Both of them will probably win 1, maybe 2 series. I think North America is just going to be very competitive from top to bottom. I don't think we're going to have any runaway teams like we had with TSM or Immortals last season. I think everyone is going to have, 3 or 4 losses. It's really going to come down to what teams did you beat in terms of your final seeding. But yeah, I would say out of those 3, if you wanted to take a flyer on one, it'd be FlyQuest. I would say out of those 3, that's the team that's most likely to make the playoffs.
That would be my impression as well. And it's one of those things where when you look at a bet that is that packed at the top, that is really the casinos throwing their hands up in the air and saying, we don't know either, guys, which is just so rare to see because all these things, right? It's based off of formulas that are, very much based in advanced metrics and all these different things that they have going on behind the scene. And then also what people are doing, right? That's why, teams like TSM are usually favored more than they would be if they were, say, a team like Immortals, because the brand recognition's better. They're more deeply entrenched and people are more likely to bet that way. And there's just none of that here. It's so dense. And it just, to me, it says that either we are completely misreading, maybe there are just too many variables right now where we just don't feel comfortable with any one of these rosters.
There's a lot of roster
many
changes.
Korean imports. And, so I think that's fair. And I also think that, this is going to be one of those where when there are so many roster changes across the scene in general, and it's a much more open format than what we saw in Europe where it's 2 groups of 5 teams, I totally understand why they're very hesitant to give value on futures bets because there are a lot of different things that could bounce in a ton of different directions. Right. But the good news is, as stingy as they were on value for futures bets, they are very excited to talk about some of these week 1 games.
Oh, boy.
The separation starts to make itself very clear when they go matchup by matchup. And let's start with the first matchup of the North American split. It is the match that I'm sure everyone has been waiting for. You, of course, Walter, most of all, since this is your team. This is Cloud9 versus TSM in the first match. What are your thoughts going into this? As a fan and as an analyst, what are your thoughts going into this opening series?
As a fan, I'm just excited to see TSM play again. Really hoping that IEM meant nothing and that Wild Turtle just wasn't practicing with the team for a while. And now that they've had, this entire offseason to work together, and now that the AD carry position is basically worthless, whatever. I'm salivating at the thought of playing against a rookie jungler in his first stage game in the LCS. Granted, Contracts did play in the promotion tournament, but whatever. He's going to be playing against Fedczuk, who's, a top 3 jungler in North America pretty easily. He's going to be playing against Bjergsen. Bjergsen always has Jensen's number. If I'm a Cloud9 fan, I think the Impact Haunches matchup, I'm very confident in that. Impact didn't need a lot of help from Meteos to get out ahead of Hunters in the grand finals. He didn't need a lot of help from Meteos to get out ahead of Huni. In either of the matchups against Immortals, I think that's where Cloud9's strength is going to be coming into this game, is really trying to leverage that. And, this is going to be a very, very good, very hard-fought series. I think this is the best time, though, for TSM to catch Cloud9 is this very first game. Hopefully, get a leg up on another team that's probably going to be, top 4.
Yeah, well, that's the fun of all of this, right, is that we now get to see, week 1, both of these teams desperately want to make a statement here. These were the 2 teams that, only made 1 change. Only CLG stood pat with everybody on the roster. So these are mostly stable teams, both of which, went to Worlds and would have hoped for a slightly better outcome than what they got. Yeah. They both want to prove that the free agent signings that they made were the right calls for what their team is building towards. So a huge statement in Game 1, I think it does mean more than even the traditional TSM versus Cloud9 rivalry usually does. when you talk about things that might catch people off guard and trying to catch Cloud9 sleeping if you're a TSM fan, but obviously Cloud9's trying to do the same way. Do you think that either one of these systems or coaches are particularly more likely to adjust early on? Do you think there's, that, for example, Contracts is going to take more time to adjust than someone like Wild Turtle just because of the system that he's in? Like, what's the way that both of these teams are going to kind of draw it up on the blackboard?
So the problem is these are probably, these are two of the top 3 coaches in North America. We'll add Zixel as a third. Like, I will give Reaper his due. He did a fantastic job with them last split. I know a lot of people have been reminding me that, oh, how dare you not remember that Reaper said their shot calling is a group effort. It's not a one person thing. So that'll probably be very helpful for a rookie jungler. It's going to be really important for Cloud9 to get Contracts used to their shot calling system because he did play with High. And while I can't say for certain that how Cloud9 Challenger shot calling ran was 100% through High, that's been the story every place High has ever played, is that he's the shot calling expert. He's the guy. So it'll be interesting to see how long it necessarily takes Contracts to adapt. We've seen already, we're recording this on Monday, we've already seen some games be played on the 10 bans in the Korean Challenger seed, and we're seeing like Olaf versus Nidalee matchups. We're seeing all the top tier junglers just get banned out. So I trust Svenskeren a little bit more if that happens than I do Contracts. Contracts is very close-minded, I guess, in his champion pool. He was very straightforward, basically stayed with the same 3 picks. So I'll trust the veteran to have a little bit larger jungler pool than I will the rookie.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. I think if you're going to, set out the TSM dream, it's going to be forcing Contracts into something on which he's not comfortable, really testing whether you can try to get something going either in the top or the mid lane. Bjergsen would love nothing more than to reassert himself as someone to be reckoned with in that position. He's obviously got so much of a history in that duel between the two of them, just because of how these teams are wired. So it's going to be fun to watch the sparks fly. I, as someone with no skin in the game, am just really excited to see how both of these teams respond to 10 bans. I think that, I would love to see Wild Turtle on his 5th choice of AD carry. I'll put it that way if I'm a Cloud9 fan. It'll be interesting to watch. Walter, all of this into account, where do you think the first line goes?
I think these teams are exceptionally close. I think that the casinos are going to hold them very close. I have it as TSM minus 130.
Okay, you and I split this one because I also said TSM minus 130. That seemed like a very reasonable call for all the reasons that you just said. It should be very close. TSM minus 149, which
totally
seems...
fair.
Yeah, it's fair. It might be one of those things where if you're a Cloud9 fan, you'll look at it and say, ooh, plus 115 for underdog odds. I like this Cloud9 team. And I'm going to say this as someone who also likes this Cloud9 team. Stay away. You have a chance to just enjoy a game between what are likely going to be the 2 best teams in North America. At the very least, they're likely to be the 2 best teams at the start since they haven't had any huge changes. Just enjoy the game, guys. Don't do this to yourself. It's too close. Don't do it. I know I'm going to forget this in 4 days, but I'm putting it on record now. Echo Fox versus Phoenix 1. That's the follow-up to this game on Friday. Obviously, 2 teams that have made rather large adjustments in how they wanted to approach their season, the split. Walter, when you look at which team you expect to make this transition into the 2017 era of League of Legends first in North America, which team do you think it's going to be?
Well, it's definitely going to be Phoenix 1 because Froggen never left Season 2.
Ooh,
let's be very honest. Like I truly think it's going to be Phoenix 1. I think that what we saw out of Inori and Pyrian at the end of the last split is very strong. The additions of Ryu and Arrow and Adrian I think are fantastic. I think Adrian's playstyle just fundamentally is a strong playstyle. Anytime he's making an AD carry switch, he's very adaptable. And the primary style that he played with Wild Turtle is basically to cover up for his AD carry's mistakes. Arrow doesn't make a ton of mistakes, so I think that's going to allow Adrian to really kind of open up, show off what he's really good at. I think the coaching staff here is really smart. At the end of the day, I still have too many questions about Echo Fox. I have too many questions about Acadian. I still am not confident in Keith as being more than anything like the 10th best AD carry in the region. I think the addition of Gate could be helpful. I think that could really help Looper and Froggen kind of have a steadying presence and take some of the shot calling aspect away from them. But just knowing some of the stories I heard about Froggen, I don't think he's going to be so quick to give up the macro decision-making aspect of it. So I think today I'm going to go with Phoenix 1, though. I think they're the better team.
Yeah, I think that's the likely outcome as well. It's one of those things where I'm very excited for this game for two very different reasons, depending on whether I'm looking as a fan of the game or as an analyst. As a fan of the game, I want to just see how Inori and Adrian work well together. There's a potential for this roaming trio if you get Ryu on a mid laner that can roam as well and just start death bushing some fools, which would be a ton of fun to watch. And as an analyst, this is going to be one of the teams that Echo Fox, has a chance to grow from, I think is the best way to put it. This is a system that will take time. We haven't seen Looper have a ton of success with anyone other than Mata. They're going to have to get used to filling whatever that Mata role was for him. Acadian's going to need time on the big stage. Gate and Froggen are going to have to get used to each other, as you said. So if there's just a process, and I will be excited to watch that process and see if the investments that Rick Fox made end up paying off in that regard. But I think you're right as to who the team should be favored today. How much should they be favored, Walter? Where do you think the line is?
I feel like the casinos are still feeling out some of these teams that made really large changes, especially Phoenix 1. So I have it as Phoenix 1 minus 150.
Okay, I get this one. I said Phoenix 1 minus 175 for very similar reasons. Why jump to any huge conclusions early, especially in best of threes? And then Unicorn said, nah, fam, Phoenix 1 minus 333. Okay.
Okay, then.
I'm not sure what has happened yet that would make that make sense to me. To put that in percentages, that means they're saying that 77% of the time Phoenix 1 wins this series. I don't know if we should say 77% of the time a team we've never watched before wins anything, but sure, let's go with it. That puts Echo Fox at plus 240, which is just low enough that I don't want to touch it.
Fair enough to me. That's Yeah, that's a little strange for it to be that high with no games being played by either team.
Yeah,
it's very high line. I'm not sure I agree with that at all.
It's more than a little weird.
I can't make money off of it. That's the other problem. Is like there's no money to be made there.
Yeah, you just have to accept your fate on that one. Let's move forward. Let's see if we can find some more value on Saturday. First up will be Counter Logic Gaming versus Team Liquid. Obviously, Counter Logic Gaming, as I said before, the only team to stay pat with all of their players, but also a team that we've talked about with Huhi in the past. But, potentially champion pools could come back to haunt them in this new 10-ban system. Yeah. What are the adjustments? When you have a guy as good as Zix is at understanding the game and understanding what their opponents are going to do, how do you think they could try to be proactive in playing around what Liquid's going to throw at him in this opening matchup?
I think he'll try and leave some of the more like the strength picks, things like Rise, Syndra. He'll probably leave all the junglers up. He'll try and force Liquid to ban out the really strong picks right now in order to sort of protect his champion pool. But we do criticize Hui's champion pool, but it's not that he can't play all these champions. He actually does have a very wide champion pool. It's just that it's not very deep. He can play 20 champions, but he's not amazing at 20 champions. He's amazing at one or two. It's not like someone like Bjergsen who's there's 3 assassins that he's really good at. There's 3 control mages he's really good at. He also has the Karma he's really good at. You're talking about width, and Bjergsen's very deep in his pool. He can play all these champions very well, and that's the problem with Hui, is outside of the Aurelion Soul and the Cassiopeia and sometimes the Victor and sometimes the Azir, there's not really much else there that you're I really want Hui on this one pick. So I think they're going to try and leverage the pick and ban phase a little bit, maybe try and go after the mid lane to force Team Liquid to pick a mid laner early on, and then that way Hui gets an early counter pick before the second set of bans come in. But this is really going to be a lot of chess in terms of the pick and ban phase to protect Hui. But I think more important, they really need to get a good matchup for Darshan. I think they really need to start the split out with Darshawn Strong. I think he really had a lackadaisical and a lackluster summer, more so than Hui. Hui, at least towards, like week 7, 8, and 9, had some games where you're like, holy crap, I didn't know Hui was this good. Darshawn never had a statement game in the summer. There was never a game where you're like, that's the Darshawn I know and love. That's the Darshawn that played for GGU in the very first split of the LCS and made it to the finals against TSM. That's 2 references in one podcast. Thank you very much. So,
yeah, you're just trying to break my heart today. That's what I'm learning here.
But yeah, I think Darshawn is way more important. You really want to start out the split with him on the right foot, because that sets so much of the tone for their success, 2 summers ago and last year in the spring when they did end up winning NA. So I think we'll see more focus on Darshawn in CLG's picks.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. And I think it's for both the reason that you mentioned, which is that we just need to feel like Darshawn can be that guy again. And also his mid lane opponent for who he's going to be Golden Glue. Right? This is not... Or Link. Either way, it's not the same... It's not like he's going up against Bjergsen on day 1, right? He's not going up against someone who's going to really be able to pick him apart if the scariest things are gone. So I think you're absolutely right that Darshawn's going to be the focus. I think that if they can get that lane going, especially against a guy like Lorlo, who is, proven to be a very competent top laner and someone who, seemed to ebb and flow very much with his team more than anything else. Now they've got Reignover. Now they've got Piglet back on the main roster. And now they've got weapons that maybe can take some pressure off of Lorlo and put it back onto, onto some of the other carry positions. How do you think that David Lim's going to have this team ready to go? Do you think it's as simple as just trying to keep Darshawn down and picking on all these things that we just mentioned CLG needs to come up with, or do they have their own agenda that's really important to establish going early on?
Well, man, it's not even David Lim anymore. It's the former TSM analyst and coach Yarg. It's Saint Vicious. Like
what?
They added Yarg and they added Saint Vicious over the last few days to their staff. So some really like well fleshed out Team Liquid staff. They did a discussion about it on their website. I think they're going to be well prepared. I think it's going to be similar. They're going to be trying to play through the top. They're going to be trying to play through mid. I think they're going to kind of just leave Piglet and Matt up against 6A and Aframu straight up. So it's really going to be around Golden Glue. And we saw them really play around Golden Glue at IEM Gyeonggi. I think Reignover and Grayson Glimmer, God, I love that name, have really built up a strong bond and a strong synergy. So it'll be very interesting to see Hui and Xmithy versus Golden Glue and Reignover in that regard.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. You're definitely looking at a situation where if you're Liquid, you want your mid lane to feel comfortable as soon as possible. Mm-hmm. This is the one big thing. If you're looking at just a talent perspective, that's the hole that you look at and say, I'm not sure if Liquid, covered up what they lost, which was a very reliable, very strong component of the team in Phoenix. It's going to be very interesting to see how they differ their in-game philosophy, especially now that they've had more than just a couple days to practice. It's very easy to try to shield somebody for one tournament in a very specific meta, but this is going to be much more of a, what is the week going to look in and week out? What is the identity that we're pushing forward? And it needs to be one in which, the mid lane can be comfortable without having to be the one that carries everything for them. So that's going to be a fun kind of back and forth to watch. Where do you think the line is for CLG versus Liquid?
Now after seeing those futures, I don't feel so confident about a lot of my lines just because that's not quite how I would have divvied them up. I have CLG at minus 135.
Oh, man. You should not have felt nervous at all. That was perfect.
Oh.
I said CLG minus 200. It's CLG minus 137.
Oh.
I thought we were going to freak out about Golden Glue a little bit longer. Turns out Team Liquid fans are feeling good. Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now.
It seems like the casino are feeling good about Team Liquid.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? It's Team Liquid plus 105, by the way, for any of you who really like going for the upset there. I repeat my point from the first game we talked about today. Stay away. There's no way we're going to know which
Chase,
one of
you've
these
said
teams...
this about 2 of the 3 games so far.
Yeah,
if you keep doing this, we aren't going to have any games to offer them to bet on.
Trust me, there's 7 games left, and I really think they should bet on the next one. Envious versus FlyQuest, the match that everyone has been waiting for, Walter. I think 2 powerhouses, contenders for the global cup.
Are you telling me Envious is favored in this game?
Are
you telling me Envious is favored in this game?
I mean, are you willing to put your guess in now?
Is there anything we want to talk about with this game?
No.
I'm going to be watching CLG versus Team Liquid instead of Envious versus Fly and watching the highlights at 2 times speed. Are we done? Is that good?
Yeah, that seems fair. I'm
Okay.
sorry, FlyQuest fans, but, if you're offended by that, you'll be more offended by what you're about to hear. Walter, what's the line?
I had it at FlyQuest minus 165.
I had it at FlyQuest minus 140. Neither one of us are getting points because not only is it Envious, it's Envious minus 238.
What?
You can get FlyQuest plus 175 against Envious.
Oh my
And remember,
God.
this is FlyQuest week 1 when all those points about coherence and synergy that people are making are totally valid rather than things that'll be outdated in a few weeks.
So that's gamble on.
Yeah, so FlyQuest plus 175. Lock that in. That's our smart money bet. Guaranteed. We don't have to come back to know that. Right?
Wow.
They were both.
What's the 2-0?
The 2-0.
What's the 2-0?
Boy.
Can we see the 2-0 for a second?
The 2-0 for Envious?
The 2-0 for FlyQuest. FlyQuest 2-0's this.
Underdogs don't get 2-0 odds.
Oh my God,
There's
that's
a
right.
minus 1.5 and plus 1.5.
What's minus 1.5? Or what's their plus 1.5?
They're plus 1.5. If I can get my way over to my handy dandy calculator, is minus 185.
Oh, okay, that's bad.
So yeah, no, just take them to win. You don't need the extra map. Just get your just trust that they're going to be better than a team that literally has Ninja, Seraph, and Apollo as your 3 laners.
Oh my Lord.
Just take that. You're getting plus odds with Seraph,
Are we,
Ninja, and
for
Apollo.
one moment, are we
3
scared
laners.
of Lyra versus Moon? Does that worry us at all?
That's a good point. I'm going to counter with Seraph, Ninja, Apollo. 3 flaws are bigger than 1, especially when
high Moon.
3 of those 5 guys have played together.
That's true. Fair
You
enough.
got it. Like, if you have any faith in coherence, and we had enough faith to give him the 8th place spot.
That's true.
You have to trust it's going to come through early on in the split before a team like Envious, which, by the way, maybe we're wrong about Envious. Maybe we're being really mean about Envious. But certainly, even if you're an Envious fan, you have to be looking at this and going, yeah, week 1, it's not going to be ready. There's no way. There's no way that all of the talents that we'll have needed to develop and the system that will need to be in place to make this talent work is going to be in place on week 1.
Listen, I have a lot of heat on me with FlyQuest fans. I'm just trying to keep that heat. They need to see me as this monster heel, okay?
Sure.
Like, I gotta maintain that.
I'm just letting FlyQuest fans know now. No matter what
I'm
thing
gambling
you
on
think
FlyQuest.
that, yeah, you and I, no matter what we have said on this podcast about FlyQuest, nothing was more disrespectful than the line that Unicorn just threw out at you guys. So let's start there, and then we'll start working our way up towards maybe potentially playoff arguments. But let's go next to Echo Fox versus Immortals. I think this is a very different kind of series. This is one that I also don't think I'll be watching in favor of the other series that will be going on at the same time.
Yeah.
But at the very least, is there anything you are excited to see about this Echo Fox Immortals series, Walter?
I'm looking forward to Cody Sung proving he is not the 10th best AD carry in North America and beating up on Keith. But I'm more excited for the Bash Brothers. And if you don't know who those are, pause this video. Go watch the Immortals team-by-team preview, just real quick. Welcome back. So since you have watched that video, you now know that I am affectionately calling Flame and Dardoch the Bash Brothers.
Yes.
Congratulations. Every game that those 2 guys play together is going to be a joy for me personally. Just because I love Dardoch, and I've been watching League of Legends, professional League of Legends, long enough to know Fly from his glory days. And, yeah, this should just be good old-fashioned butt-kicking.
Yeah. As a longtime Ceades fan, I have rights to claim Immortals as my favorite team this split. Getting to root for Dardoch is just, another selling point. I also love the idea that this podcast just became a Russian nesting doll because they went back to listen to Immortals, then realized they had to go back and watch the Mighty Ducks to come back to the Immortals, to come back here. So those of you who have taken the journey, congratulations. I hope it was as fulfilling for you as it was for us when we first watched
it always goes back to Emilio Estevez. Always goes back to Emilio Estevez.
Quack, 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 man. That's all I have to say about that. What do you think the line is for this, Walter?
I mean, Immortals' odds of winning this game are much better than the Flying V actually being a successful playbook in any hockey team. I have Immortals at -180, and I'm afraid I went too low.
Oh, you went too low. You absolutely went too low. But you knew that already when you wrote that down. I went too low when I said -240. Walter, can I get a mini drum roll, please? It is our highest line of the day. It is Immortals -526. Congratulations, Echo Fox. You are the biggest underdogs of the week at +350. Yeah, I don't know. We haven't seen Immortals play much of anything. We've never seen Echo Fox play at all, but -526 because sure.
No love for the Foxes.
No
love for the Foxes.
Do we need to send, should we just do a tweet to Unicorn with just a picture of the Echo Fox jet and see if that bumps it a few points?
Are we gonna create sadfox.jpg?
Oh,
is that going to become a thing?
JPEG is absolutely a thing.
Is that going to become a thing?
If it's not, I'm disappointed in both Reddit and my fan base. And the first one is typical, but the second one, someone here, I believe in you listeners right now. Sadplane.jpg. There's a whole new world of ways to explore with Echo Fox's Jet 1 here. Please, I'm counting on you, Internet. I don't have the Photoshop skills for this. I depend on you for these things. Let's move forward before I get too caught up in the memes. Dignitas versus Phoenix 1. Man, terrible. You try to avoid memes and I go straight to Dignitas. Bad idea. But here we are.
Mouse pads.
Yes. Oh boy, I forgot about that one. Yeah, shout out to Dignitas. But this is a very different Dignitas. This is the 76ers Dignitas. This is the new era of Dignitas, the former Apex era of Dignitas, the one that you picked to get first place at the end of this year. So a team that you're obviously excited about.
The team that convinced their Korean import to buy all their snacks for him and made him spend like $250 on snacks for the house. Yes.
Yeah, look, it works out. Other than the snacks, though, we can ensure they're going to be well-nutritioned for the match. How else do you think Dignitas is going to be ready to make a statement on Game 1? Because Phoenix 1 is not an easy out.
Phoenix 1 is definitely not an easy out, but the strengths of Dignitas, I believe, are in the top lane and the jungle, and I think that Zig is kind of a minus for Phoenix 1. I think they really are going to struggle against high-pressure top laners. Having Chaser and Someday together almost just guarantees to me that Chaser is going to be in Someday's back pocket for 90% of the game. And guess what? Dignitas also has an AD carry that's pretty smart and pretty good in lane and LoD. So he doesn't have to beat Arrow by any stretch of the imagination. He just has to go even. He just has to not die. He just has to be a solid guy. Ezreal is a really strong pick as AD carry right now. Caitlyn, those are both champions that LoD really was proficient on. It'll give him and Xpecial a little bit of time to kind of get to know each other and really learn how each other work. And you just play through the upper side of the map, and I think just talent-wise, the deficiency between Zig and Someday will be enough to tilt this in Dignitas' favor.
Yeah, it does feel like if you look at it from just a position-by-position matchup, that's very much the case. Someday is a guy, Emily Rand wrote a great article about it on how these new Korean imports to North America in the top lane are really going to shape things and what we can expect. And the thing about Someday that she just hammered in so well is the idea of him being a very self-sufficient top laner. This is a guy who knows how to make plays. He holds down his lane. He will figure it out. And any extra resources you send his way is just a bonus. The guy is incredibly mechanically gifted. He's a great laning player, and he will get his and whatever else that he can steal from you. So that is not a great sign for Zig. It might be a good sign, though, for the Inori, Adrian, Ryu trifecta, though, because Someday is going to hold on to his own in lane, and Chaser's certainly going to be focusing there. But are you a little worried about that mid lane Keen that's going to be going up against Ryu in the particular meta that we're in, or do you think enough is going their way?
Keen has shown that he is a smart enough player that he knows when he's outmatched. When he realizes he can't cheese people, he picks something safe and sits back. If you've seen the games that he played as Orianna for Apex, he just sat back. He said, I'm not going to fight you, Bjergsen, because I don't have some cheesy counter strategy to you. I'm just going to sit back here and farm. And he's very smart. He stays very close to his tower. He's actually a pretty good warder when he's in those situations, too. He really places them in good spots so he doesn't get kind of outflanked unless you do some really weird gank path. X Special would roam up to him quite a bit, too, to keep him safe. I think Lot is a safe enough laner that X Special can kind of ferry himself back and forth between the two lanes just to make sure neither of them really fall behind. And as much as I say that Chaser is probably going to be in Sunday's back pocket, it will get to a point if Sunday has a big enough lead where he can just 1v1 Zig. Of course, you're always going to pull your jungler away from that. You don't keep sending your jungler top after you take in the top inhibitor at 12 minutes when there's nothing else to do. You're going to move around. And Sunday's ability to teleport has been one of his probably most underappreciated aspects coming into North America. We know of him as this amazing carry. He's very strong. He's going to 1v1 people. But he's an excellent teleporter, and there are very few people in the North American LCS that really know how to execute teleport flanks. Impact is one of them. Haunters on most occasions is one of them. Beyond that, it's really, really sparse. So even though Phoenix One does have this, three-man core that probably will roam together very well, I still think that Dignitas definitely has more upside and more talent and is going to win this match.
The upside is certainly there, and from a talent perspective, I understand where you're coming from. I'm a little bit higher on Inori and Adrian's ability to make plays, I think, just because I'm not so convinced by X Special when you look at the bot lane. Even if Law does okay, if Arrow can get it going a little bit, then suddenly Adrian has freedom to go up because Law just has to play safe, and he's good at playing safe. He won't lose the lane, but it does allow them to start disrupting some of the lanes that maybe would be winning. Maybe someday can win a 1v2. Can he win a 1v3? I'm not so sure.
He's proven he can't win a 1v3.
Yeah, he tried very hard with 4KT Rolster. But, putting the past where it is, we have to look at how these teams are going to perform in week one. It's certainly going to be very exciting to watch as they both try to pull off this new identity that they've built for themselves. Walter, where do you think the line is here?
I have it as Dignitas minus 150.
Okay. I said that as well. So we get to split that one. It is actually Dignitas minus 137. So we're both pretty close on that. Phoenix 1 plus 105. I hate to do this for a third time, but prepare headphone users. Stay away. I hate this. Why are 3 lines this close are not what a gambler wants to see at any point. But here's the thing. If this was Europe, we would be done right now. But since this is North America, we got a whole 10 games in a week. We got a whole nother day. Let's go to Sunday. Envious versus CLG. Let's get that out of the way first.
Oh, okay.
Is that going to screw you up?
No. I'm good.
Okay, Envious versus CLG. I don't think there's a lot to say about this game. Is there anything that you would like to see from Envious that might change your mind on where you stand on him right now? What would be the one thing that could happen that would really make you say, this team could surprise me?
Nothing.
Okay, what's the line?
Well, I'm afraid I went a little too low on this, especially after seeing your line. I have CLG at minus 185.
Yeah, you went too low. You're still in the week, luckily, because of the ties and the non-starter that was the Envious FlyQuest series. It is, I said CLG minus 400. It is CLG minus 500. It is Envious plus 330. I have no interest in any of those lines or the game in general, unless Envious really comes out strong. If Envious, there's some history, their version of this week, I guess, in which we look back next week and say, why did we skip every Envious game? If you're an Envious fan, I hope that you're right and we're wrong. In the meantime, we're going to move forward because I don't think we're going to be. TSM versus Immortals. This is my game of the week. I understand that the best game of the week is likely TSM versus Cloud9. It's going to be an amazing series, tons of history behind it. But I just love this idea of the Bash Brothers and all of these guys that are very talented, but as our interview with the Splice owner Marty, kind of pointed out, not really an established system by any means, especially now that they have a new coach, versus TSM, who maybe took a step back a little bit going from Double Lift to Wild Turtle in talent, but has the clear system.
Turtles played in that system.
Yeah, well, but Turtles played in whatever you call the Dylan Falco Immortals. This is a whole new Immortals.
Well, no, I'm saying Wild Turtles played in the TSM system.
Oh, in the TSM.
He does have some experience playing, in the TSM system. He has experience playing with Bjergsen. I love the fact that you are using my term. That's trademarked now. I'm going to create shirts and everything for it using Dardoch and Flame's likeness because I'm allowed to do that, apparently, Immortals. But I love the fact of those Bash Brothers versus the two Great Danes that are on TSM and Svenskeren and Bjergsen. Pobelter is one of the top 3 mid laners in North America. Bjergsen's number 1. It seems like anytime that these top 3 mid laners come up against Bjergsen, he's just better. He elevates himself. He just takes it to that next step, and whether it's Jensen or whether it's Pobelter, they just can't quite eclipse him. That he can hold his own against them, and sure, he may die once or twice to them in laning phase, whatever, but he's just so much better at them once you get into the team fighting, once you move out of just the 1v1. I think he's a more complete mid laner, and the fact that Svenskeren had such an amazing Worlds, that the two of them built up such incredible synergy just over the course of those 6 games at Worlds. I'm really impressed. As much as I'm nervous about Wild Turtle, I think that it's the TSM system. They'll figure out how to fit him in there. And, I would just suggest maybe not Jhin. Maybe not Jhin. Maybe go Ashe. Ashe is probably a safer pick for Wild Turtle at this point.
There are enough options now. I think he's made his stance on Jhin pretty clear.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to see how Immortals attacks it. Because as you said, TSM has a system. They know how to run their system. Even Wild Turtle can run the system functionally. This is going to be a very scary team for the entire year. I think that's undoubtedly true. And Immortals, if you're looking at that, you have to understand this is week 1. We don't have our system firmly established yet. No one does after 1 week. So we just have to throw this giant ball of talent that we grabbed this offseason just directly at your face. And how are they going to do that? Well, it's going to be Dardoch just ramming into lanes over and over and over again. I'm expecting a very aggressive Immortals composition, which, to be fair, has kind of always been the way Immortals played. But this has also been a series that TSM has come on top of now more often than not. So at the end of the day, Walter, where do you think this line ends up?
I feel like the casinos are still sort of forgetting that Immortals made roster changes, so I have TSM at -150.
Okay. I get this one, and with it the week, that's going to be a 2-0 for me. I like the theory, but it turns out they did remember that Immortals made roster changes, because I said -175. It's TSM -208. Immortals at +155. Yeah, I know. It's overwhelmingly fair. I hate it too. It'll be very interesting to see if Immortals has enough just sheer force of will to try to overpower some of these guys in TSM. I don't know how you do it, right? Like, can Dardoch gank 10 times in 15 minutes? Like, that's not really feasible, right? You can't be everywhere all at once. So I feel like TSM will just readjust and kind of emerge victorious there. I'm going to look up the line for TSM getting a 2-0 in this series while we talk about the next matchup, which I'm going to take a guess probably won't take as much of our mental energy to work out the intricacies, and that would be Liquid versus FlyQuest. This is a game that will be played and people will watch it, and it will be on a Sunday.
Will people be watching it? Will people be watching this?
Someone's watching this. Liquid's got fans.
See, this is what surprises me about Riot. Why the hell would you put Cloud9 and Cloud9 Challenger scheduled at the same time? I'm sorry. Our producer Nick is they aren't Cloud9 Challenger. They aren't. They're That's a terrible name. Why would they ever pick that name? I have to call them that? Who says? I don't want to call them that. Their logo's awful too. Well, yeah, I have to put that on the screen. I don't understand why they put Cloud9 and FlyQuest on at the same time when they share 90% of the same fan base.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
I said I'm a heel here, baby. Come get me, Cloud9 fans.
Can you remind me what's our producer's name again?
Nick.
Nick is shout out to Nick. He puts in a lot of time and effort to really make this show run.
Nick is such a great guy. He wears glasses. He wears his hair just like this. He's wearing a brown shirt right now.
Yeah.
It's surprising.
Yeah, good for him, man. Brown is the color that people underestimate.
For those of you who don't know, Nicholas is my middle name. Sorry to spoil
I
that
couldn't
magic.
tell you were wearing a brown shirt. See, I've been bamboozled. Much like me IRL, I have been bamboozled. Once
Nicholas
again.
is not a real person. That is my middle name. Yeah, FlyQuest versus Team Liquid.
Now, never tell him about the secrets, Walter. I mean, is there anything even really to say? Like, this is the Cloud9 Challenger team, and this is a Cloud9 Challenger team that needed a pretty sizable series to beat the Liquid Challenger team, and this team is sizably better than the Liquid Challenger team. To me, it seems pretty straightforward. What would change your mind from that, Walter? What would be the one thing you could say, like, oh, this is why we should give FlyQuest a little bit more credit here? If you had to come up with one.
Becomes the Altec we finally have been waiting for, and he just styles on Piglet.
Wouldn't that be so nice?
I couldn't even say that with a straight face.
Look. I was hurt enough by the Winter Fox era to know never to put too much faith in Altec's ability to perform on a big stage. Mm-hmm. I love him. You know, as a guy, he seems like a nice enough dude. I love watching him when he's not playing under pressure. He just seems like the kind of guy that doesn't do well on a big stage. And you're going to be going up against Piglet on a big stage. Have fun, buddy. We'll see you next week. Assuming you're still alive.
This could be this could be the battle theater stage, so it might be a little smaller stage. Like that might be maybe FlyQuest could just play all their games in the battle theater. Like would that help?
That's the strategy.
Would that help? You think that would help?
I feel like that would be something that Riot might want to help out with a new ownership group that's just
investigate and say like, oh, so he only plays well if he's on smaller stages, huh?
Interesting. Look, I think anything is in play at this point. I refuse to wipe out any variables in an offseason that's been as crazy as this is. Where do you think the line is, Walter?
Well, again, if I had seen the futures before this, it would not have been this close. I had Team Liquid at minus 135.
Yeah. So about that, I said Team Liquid minus 333. Team Liquid minus 455, which seems a little high.
It's pretty high.
Not to be confused with Fly High, of course, which is a player that's going to be playing in this game. But yeah, that pun's gonna get old within a week of this podcast, right?
That pun is so worn out. I would rather hear about Kerp's trackball mouse for the next 10 weeks.
Oh boy, we can arrange that, Walter. We can get a Reddit bot on top of that for you. I don't see any reason to watch this game. I don't think FlyQuest plus 300 is enough value.
No,
I just think we'll be focused on Dignitas versus Cloud9. And this is the battle of teams that we both predicted to get first place, Walter. It's your team versus my team, mano a mano. Let's totally ignore the fact that this is the first week of the season, and by the time the playoffs roll around, it'll be totally different. One of us will be correct, and the other one will be totally wrong, and the internet will tell us which at the end of this game.
Or neither team will win, and we'll both be wrong, and then,
That would be an interesting turn of events.
It would be. It's almost like there's actually 10 different possible outcomes for the winner of the season. It's
I don't know
weird.
What you're talking about, Walter. It's the one I picked, or there's no other option. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's so weird.
But outside of the predictions that one of us is totally going to prove is correct after 1 week, what are your thoughts on this game? What's the thing that really gets you excited as an analyst when you look at how these two teams are going to slug it out?
I really hope that the impact we saw during the playoff run for Cloud9 and the regional run is actually the impact we're gonna get. I really want to see like vintage, Cloud9 era impact at his best versus Someday at his best. You very rarely have these moments where you have people play against other people in their position that, Impact was Someday before Someday, basically. He was primarily a carry that then turned into a tank player because he had two amazing other carries on his team, really fine-tuned his support, his teleports, really fine-tuned his team fighting. And it's very rare that you get these, separate era kind of guys fighting. This is like your wrestling equivalent of Daniel Bryan versus Shawn Michaels. Like, Ooh. It never happens. And it'll never happen because Shawn Michaels is like 60 and looks like he is about to keel over at any moment. And Daniel Bryan, if he falls on his neck the wrong way, dies. So I'm not bitter about that. I'm not a Daniel Bryan fan. Yes. Anyways, but yeah, it's very rare where you get these sort of cross-era matches, and it seems weird to say that about, someone who is playing in a World Championship in Season 3, and now it's only Season 7, but, that is kind of what it is in esports. These are two separate eras. The game has changed so much since Season 3. So I'm very excited to see the top lane matchup. I'm also excited to see Lod against Sneaky, because I think Lod could follow that sneaky path where he just gradually improves. And, in a year we're talking about him as probably, one of the top 3 AD carries in North America. Or he's in that discussion of like, okay, well, when you're ranking 80 carries, well, at 4 I have either, Stixay or Lod or Sneaky or, it's any given Sunday essentially. So I'm excited for those two matchups. I think those will be very good matchups.
I agree wholeheartedly. I love the fact that we can, esports is the only time in which you can say, yeah, that thing that happened 3 years ago, that's ancient history, man.
True.
That is entire. And to be fair, it totally is. You just look at how much the jungle has changed between Season 6 and Season 7, and then you remember this is the least drastic set of changes that Riot has had from year to year as far as I've been following the competitive scene. It is always just gigantic, weird changes.
We got to keep the same jungle items. They haven't changed the jungle items. That's fantastic.
Finally, like this is one of the few times where you can kind of see, like, hey, at least Season 6 and 7 kind of go together as an era. But no, you're absolutely right. These are players in Impact and Someday who not only have proven in the past that they could succeed in multiple eras, but are now being asked to do it again in a whole nother region. Yeah. And then you have in the bot lane. I think this is when we find out whether Smoothie's growth from last split is a exponential curve that's going to kind of teeter out at some point, or whether it's a kind of a more of a direct curve and we just haven't reached the peak of it yet. I think that Smoothie is one of those guys that when he made plays last split, he made big plays, and I'm excited to see if he can pull that out against a guy like Xpecial, who maybe isn't quite as good at laning. Where do you think the line goes, Walter?
I have it as Cloud9 minus 180.
Okay. You get this one.
Hey!
So you get a nice consolation prize here. I went too high. I said minus 200. It's minus 164. Which I think, for Cloud9, that's very fair, given that they have been around before and kept mostly the same roster, and Dignitas is a very new team. It seems like Unicorn and company are really excited about this Dignitas team. But we got to find some smart money bets, Walter. I would like to propose. We already got FlyQuest plus 175 over Envious. We locked that in as soon as we heard it.
Yep, pretty much. Yep.
Can I talk you into TSM plus 155 to get a 2-0 over Immortals? Because this early on in the split, I don't think Immortals is ready to take on TSM head-to-head. I would feel about 1,000% better if this matchup was 3 weeks from now.
It's 205?
It's plus 155.
155, okay.
Plus 155, though.
Okay.
Yeah, whereas it's Immortals plus... It's either plus 155 for Immortals to win the series or for TSM to get a 2-0, and I think the 2-0 is more likely.
2-0 is more likely. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'll say that.
Okay.
I'll agree with that one.
So then we need one more, and it looks like... I mean, unless you really like FlyQuest plus 300 against Team Liquid?
No.
Echo Fox plus 240 against...
You know which one I'm going to say, Chase.
Just say it. Just say it.
Dignitas over Cloud9.
Okay, that's plus 125.
Not great odds, but I think that I have to start out the split going like, yeah, Dignitas is gonna win the split. They have to beat Cloud9. Like,
yeah, totally fair, and I will happily take that bet because it's a great reverse jinx opportunity. Mostly because I need all the good luck I can get for Sunday for my Falcons.
oh,
which
damn it, I just jinxed myself. You're absolutely correct.
I don't know what you're talking about, Walter. You're gonna be great. It's gonna be you took the 2-0 for TSM and you bet on Dignitas over Cloud9. There's no way both of those backfire on you, right?
You might want to be careful who's throwing karma at someone here, mister. My team is playing their last game in their stadium in the conference championship against the man who transformed the Hail Mary into Simply Mary.
Yeah, see, it's statements like that that have me keep bringing this up. But you know what? Maybe you guys have your own things to tell us in the comments. Whether it be about League of Legends, if you want to talk some stuff about football in the comments, we'll talk about the NFL too. We love talking to you guys in general. We've loved the feedback we've had on these preview episodes. We love the reaction we saw from the interview with Marty when we talked to him a couple days ago. So please keep that conversation going. We read all of the comments. Of course, you can also contact us directly on social media. I'm at RedShirtKing on Twitter. Walter, where can the nice people at home find you?
For obscure wrestling, Disney movie, and esports references, please follow at Ceades_LOL.
Awesome.
You.
We made 5 smart money bets this week, guys. 2 in Europe, 3 in North America. Come back next week. We'll tell you how we did. We'll break down the most important matches from week 1, and we'll go through the entirety of week 2 with that new framework in hand. So until then, goodbye, Internet.
Hey there, Ceades here. Thanks for checking out the podcast. And if you enjoyed today's episode, consider supporting us at www.patreon.com/roughdraftspod. For just $1 a month, you can join your fellow listeners in our patron-only Discord channel and help keep the content coming, or join our VIP club where $1 a show or $8 a month gets you first priority on all patron content like our patron-only Q&As. And check us out on all of our social media, Twitter @RoughDraftsPod, Facebook.com/RoughDraftsPod, SoundCloud.com/esportsroughdrafts, as well as on iTunes and YouTube by just searching for the Rough Drafts Podcast. Thanks for listening, and goodbye, Internet.